Carelessness motivates you. Acts 2 verse 17. In the last days God says, I will pour my Spirit upon all men. Thy sons and daughters shall prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream. Many people's visions/dreams stalled. Why? They began to become ungrateful or thought, what do I have? What can I do? Everyone else has so much and can do so much. Do not put your light under a box, dear friend. Or you may be one of those who love to be served. Be the center of attention where everyone else should love you and do something for you, but you yourself only come to a church once a week to be served. The rest of the week goes with you being unhappy with this and that. You think it's too bad and it doesn't visit you, they don't pay enough attention to you, etc. You have put yourself in the dock where you complain about everything and everyone, but you do not see yourself in the mirror of the Word. You turn around now and see yourself in the mirror of the Word. The attitude of gratitude provides motivation. Paul's attitude of gratitude. 1 Corinthians 15 is the greatest explanation for the importance of Jesus' resurrection to believers. You will find in that chapter that this is of first importance to the church. After explaining the truth of the resurrection and describing Jesus' appearances, Paul says this about his own life and faith. 8 In the end, he also appeared to me, as to an untimely born. 9 For I am the least of the apostles, unfit to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. 10 But by the grace of God I am what I am, and his grace toward me has not been in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them, even though it was not me but God's grace that is with me. Did you catch it? When Paul considers the story of Jesus' death and resurrection, he is amazed that God also showed him grace. The attitude of gratitude gives Paul motivation for his work. Notice that it is God's grace that amazes and motivates Paul. God's grace, Paul says, made him work harder than all the other apostles. So, to understand this motivation, you need to understand the reality of grace. Definitions. The definition of grace is God's undeserved favor. God extends His love and gives salvation to me, not because I deserve it. I could never deserve it. Instead, He simply chooses to give it to me, even though I am unworthy. It's grace. Is this the grace you show other, dear friend? Basically, what is the biblical definition of grace? Grace is a service from God that is not deserved. We receive this favor through salvation from God and other blessings from Him. God's grace does not depend on our actions, but solely on the fact that He wants to give it to us. 2 Timothy 1 verse 9 says God has called us to live a life that is holy because of His grace. The reality that the sovereign God decided to treat Paul with grace rather than with righteousness amazed and motivated Paul greatly. Are you in that grace? Do you show love and gratitude to others? Reflection on the attitude of gratitude. Let's reflect on that. Is it true that the attitude of gratitude provides motivation for your preaching and ministry? We can look like a Pharisee, in fact, without us knowing it. A Pharisee is a person who reaches a level of spirituality that he or she can maintain. Then that person looks down on others who can't or can't. It is a Pharisee. The first step to recovery is to realize that I love judging people, to rank them below me. Preachers are particularly likely to do this. We who preach have usually worked hard to become what we are today. People look up to us as models of the Christian faith and life. We are perhaps more in danger of becoming Pharisees than everyday Christians. People copy our lives and attitudes. It's actually not so nice to always be a preacher. If we do not live up to people's standards, we are stabbed in the back, belittled and gossiped about, etc. This is despite the fact that we refer to Jesus as they must follow, not us as human beings, but what Goodsword says, not us with Jesus the Master as a decibel's head, we are only servants. Is that you? The only claim to be equal before God, or just, is that Jesus died for my sins? That's what Paul says in this passage. How the attitude of gratitude provides motivation. The attitude of gratitude provides motivation for preachers, even for those of you who are Christians right where you are now, but you will only experience it if you regularly appear before God with a confession of sin and with the cry, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. To such people comes a motivation of joy to continue serving God faithfully. All Christians are actually goods and servant here on earth. Unfortunately, mange Christian become ungrateful. Maybe you. Why should everyone else have more than you, etc.? When we are grateful for what we have in relation to others who do not, we gladly share in gratitude, also when it comes to preaching, but also in very practical things. An ungrateful heart/mind makes you selfish, then you only think about yourself, how you can best overlive yourself. Share with gratitude with others. Amen.